Legendary industrialist Ratan Tata has passed away at 86. His mortal remains are being kept at the Mumbai NCPA Cultural Center for tributes. Among others, Home Minister Amit Shah, Piyush Goyal, Sharad and Ajit Pawar have paid their respects, and business leaders like the Ambanis and Birlas have also been present. Ratan Tata was a figure who towered over Indian industry for several decades and completely refashioned the Tata's Group for the 21st century. He is an iconic figure, not just as an industrialist, but as a philanthropist, which is why there had been a spontaneous outpouring of grief at the passing away of a legend. Let's bring you the headlines in a moment. But as you can see those pictures coming in from the NCPA, crowds of people, VVIPs and indeed ordinary Indian citizens, especially of his loved city of Mumbai, are lining up there at the National Center for Performing Arts, the NCPA, to pay their last tributes to Ratan Tata. The funeral is expected to be later this afternoon at around 5 p.m. Those are visuals you can see of Dr. Chandrasekharan, the chairperson of Tata Sons at the moment, along with Chandrababu Naidu there, the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister. Those are the latest visuals that we are getting at the moment of the funeral that's expected later today. Ratan Tata passing away at the age of 86. Someone who took over the Tata Group at a time of transition. Remember, the great J.R.D. Tata had set the group on a path of growth, but Ratan Tata took it to another level in the post-liberalization era, handling both domestic competition and also importantly taking the group global. It was a period when we saw new Tata companies emerge. TCS became a new powerhouse, and the Tatas made several acquisitions. Not all of them worked, but all of them showed in a way the ambition and the enterprise that Ratan Tata had for his group. But above all else, what he is also going to be remembered as is a fine human being, a very fine human being. Someone who spent a large part of his life devoting monies to charities and philanthropic causes, to animal activists, and to those who sought succor in their old age, citizen groups, and various startups. He mentored them and became truly a legend in his lifetime. Those, as I said, are images from Mumbai. With me in the studio is my colleague and Business Today TV's managing editor, Siddharth Zarabi, is with me. And Siddharth and I will take you over the next couple of hours to reminisce with people who knew Ratan Tata well. Please feel free, Siddharth, to also share your memories of Ratan Tata. But let's go first across to Dr. Sanjay Baru. Dr. Sanjay Baru was media advisor to former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, has also been a veteran journalist, someone who's edited several financial newspapers. Dr. Baru, put Ratan Tata and his contribution to Indian industry in context for us.
Well, I think, as you correctly said, he inherited a company of some distinction from his uncle J.R.D., who had, by the time when he gave up in 1991, already established Tata as a premium institution in India. I think Ratan Tata really was one of the first people, along with someone like Narayan Murthy and Rahul Bajaj, who took advantage of the liberalization of the Indian economy in 1991, launched by Prime Minister Narasimha Rao and Finance Minister Manmohan Singh at that time. The Tatas went global after that. And the fact that today in the world, when you ask the question, what are the Indian brands that you come across in different parts of the world? These are the three dominant brands. There is Tata, there is Infosys, and there is Bajaj. And I think Tata certainly was the leader of the pack because he was not just operating in a newly emerging business like IT, but in traditional manufacturing. And Tata trucks are seen all the way from the dusty roads of Africa to the posh boulevards of London, where he has now brought British products like Land Rover. I think what people will remember, as you again correctly said, is that he was a builder. He built on a very firm foundation, no doubt. But, I keep saying that what he inherited from JRD was like the Mughal Empire at the end of its, in the last days of the empire, where you had all these satraps like Rusi Modi in Jamshedpur, like Darbari Seth and Kerkar and various other people who are running their own mini empires in steel, in cement, in tea, in hotels. And Ratan was seen as the new boy around the block, a young man. But he took charge.
Right.
And while he was a great gentleman, a man of great compassion, I would say there was steel inside velvet when it came to his personality. He was firm in his resolve. When he made mistakes like a Nano, which was a big mistake, but he was firm. He took Nano away from Bengal, took it to Gujarat, and made sure that the product was launched. But that was one of his great failures. But on the other hand, you look at TCS, as you mentioned, look at many other products of the Tatas, and more recently his global ventures. But I think Ratan Tata is really two different people in one. He was this steely personality, a business leader, and at the same time a fine human being, a true gentleman.
That's beautifully put. A steel exterior, but a velvet interior in a way. Siddharth Zarabi, even as Harish Bijur joins us from Bengaluru, your memories, you must have interviewed him. What's the sense? What are your memories, Siddharth?
So, look at his career arc. 30 years before he became chairman, and that's something that he did for 20 years. So 50 years. And if you look at it from 1962 to 1991, when he then became the chairman, and from 91 onwards, the story of India's liberalization, the story of India's economic growth, I think Mr. Ratan Tata not just had a sort of, a premium window seat there, he was a key player in that. And in the nature of the Tata businesses is the story of how India has also grown on the economic front.
Okay, we're just hearing Amir Khan, the actor, speaking, as well as Chandrababu Naidu. Just let's listen in. I'll come back to you, Siddharth.
The nation, he proved it. He's a rare businessman. Doing business is one angle, and doing business with ethical is very important. He has kept that all his life through. He has made India visible globally. As an industrialist, he had a great vision. He started around 100 countries his operation.
Allow me to allow Siddharth to complete. Siddharth, interestingly, Sanjay Baru mentioned about post-liberalization. The likes of Rahul Bajaj, Narayan Murthy, Ratan Tata took advantage of it. If you recall, in the early days, there was the talk of the Bombay Club. They were worried that liberalization would make life more difficult for them in terms of competition. Eventually, all of them, and Ratan Tata in particular, embraced it. And as Sanjay Baru again put it, converted a relatively old company, old family company, into a company ready for the 21st century.
I think he changed a lot of the Tata culture of working, including taking on the satraps, and that was a big bruising battle. We were in school and college those days, but we've read about that. But taking India and taking the Tata Group global was one of his biggest strategies. Remember, everyone or most of them were worried at that time, and here was someone who wanted to go overseas. And I believe, as a reporter, that perhaps has to do with his own personal experiences overseas, his love of technology, his diverse interests as a person. Rajdeep, he lived a very simple life, but the scope of his ambition was anything but simple, Rajdeep.
Very well put again. He wasn't living in some lavish mansion. He was there by Kulaba, by the sea, and you could often see Ratan there feeding dogs, It was an open house, particularly for stray dogs who...
and Bombay House.
And Bombay House, where he'd created a complete floor for them. Animal activism was part of Ratan Tata's art. There's a picture of me that's at our school reunion. Ratan Tata very proudly was from my school, Campion, then went to Cathedral, was our first batch of the 1940s. But we had only school then till standard 6, I think. And he and Zubin Mehta were contemporaries. The great Zubin Mehta and Ratan Tata. And he played the orchestra for Tata Group, while while Zubin took, of course, it across the world. But Harish Bijur, the brand called Ratan Tata, he was not just, he became completely identified, as most people do, with the companies they build. But in his case, he took the company to another level. So he inherited a company, but he was a worthy inheritor.
Absolutely. Rajdeep, today we are celebrating a life, and a life well lived for 86 long years, Mr. Ratan Tata. Now, if you really look at it, I think he is a brand in himself for sure. And to an extent, when I look at the Tata Group as such, I don't call it to be a trade name. The Tata is not a trade name. Tata is a persona name. And that persona name represents trust, whether it be right from Jamsetji downwards, on to JRD, and then certainly on to Ratan Tata. But in the case of Ratan Tata, if you look at metrics, we're talking 4 to 130, 4 billion to 130.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
Is the number that we're talking about. And if you look at that number comes with a lot of patience and panache. Mr. Ratan Tata, I would define him to be a gentleman, a complete gentleman, which all of us know him to be that, a corporate soldier, very tough, and we know exactly what he did with the satraps, which has just been discussed, and a purist to the core who says that ethics are very important.
Right.
The Tata name represents trust. I will not compromise it. There are stories and stories of the way he has spoken to governments, central governments, state governments, ministers, and bureaucrats. None of it will be in open space, but all of us know that trust and honesty and integrity are the hallmark of that group. And that was represented by RNT.
Sanjay Baru, the 1990s, which is a decade you documented very carefully, the Manmohanomics years, the Narasimha Rao years, the likes of Ratan Tata, with the audacity of ambition, some would say, decided to embrace competition. Do you believe, in a sense, therefore, they were the children of that generation? The liberalization generation threw up industrialists who didn't have to depend on the license permit Raj. There was a period when industry was seen to be driven by the license permit Raj, including companies like the Tatas. Would you say that really, in a way, Ratan Tata was a product of that revolution, if I may call that, because there were skeptics when he took over Tatas? Will he be able to handle, as you said, the Darbari Seths, the Rusi Modis, all of whom were also empire builders within the Tatas, but he managed to do that and more.
Indeed. In fact, this is a very important point, that the Tatas were not the beneficiaries of the license control permit Raj. In fact, one of the reasons why JRD funded the Swatantra Party and criticized Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi for their economic policies was that he was opposed to the license permit control Raj. And if you look at all the studies of the licensing system, the principal beneficiaries were the Birlas. This has been recorded fairly well. So when liberalization came, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think Ratan Tata took advantage of the new environment and took his company forward, while at the same time consolidating that company. But I think I should mention one thing of interest. Not many people may be aware of this, which is that one of the reasons why JRD was a bit upset with the Nehrus was the nationalization of Air India, a company that JRD started. And during Rajiv Gandhi's tenure, he made Ratan Tata chairman of Air India for a brief while, almost like a gesture. But finally, when the government of India, the Modi government, decided to privatize Air India, the Tata board actually looked at Air India and said, no, this is not a company we want to take over. And the board discussed at great length that, Air India's finances were not in good shape. Organizationally, it was a white elephant, and therefore they did not approve of the idea of takeover of Air India. At which point Ratan Tata stepped in personally and said, over my dead body, we are going to take over Air India. It was an emotional decision. In fact, as one board member said to me, it was not a commercial decision, it was an emotional decision, because Air India was taken away by the government from JRD, and it is Ratan who brought it back to the Tata fold in the last few years, and it is now on the cusp of integrating with Vistara. It's a major story in Ratan Tata's life that he felt very emotional, even though it was not a commercially viable decision, that he should take over something that his mentor had started.
It's fascinating to sort of hear that someone takes a decision as major as that, to decide to go back to take over Air India simply because it was an emotional decision associated with the family over the years. Amir Khan, the actor, is among the various celebrities who's there at the paying their respects to Ratan Tata there in Mumbai. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
आज का दिन बहुत ही दुख भरा है हम सब के लिए, पूरे देश के लिए। रतन जी ने जो कंट्रीब्यूशन दिया है, उनकी कंपनी टाटा, उनसे पहले से और उनके लीडरशिप में जो कंट्रीब्यूशन दिया है देश के लिए, वो अमूल्य है। इट्स प्राइसलेस एंड बहुत ही रेयर किस्म के इंसान, और हम सब उनको बेहद मिस करेंगे।